No, we don't do that. No.
All right, Reverend Prescott, take us to glory now.
Look, I was gonna sing for y'all, but you know,
Sing.
no.
You changed your mind.
That anointing has lifted.
She came out there.
That anointing for singing has lifted. Dr. Hudson, don't you start. Don't you even start.
And I got a video.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. What? Ask Bishop about it. Ask Bishop about it.
Oh, shucky ducky.
Dr. Hudson, you on my list now. You just wait.
Hope it's the next Christmas list.
Don't you mess with him, Reverend Prescott.
Uh-oh. You got
I
gotta be quiet.
One shout out to my son today. He turned 40 today.
All right. Happy birthday.
Turned 40. I can't believe that. I'm like, geez.
That means you old.
No, I don't.
That means
I
he's
started
old.
young.
Yeah, that means you're getting better, right? Getting better.
Right. That means he's old, not you. I get it.
Like 22 or something like that. So, do the math. 24, somewhere like that.
Well, welcome everyone. We are live. Hi, Mylita. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Please, as you're coming in, do share, tell someone, and tell us where you're coming on from. Buffalo, New York. Thank you, Mylita. And then, don't stay quiet. We want this to be conversational. So definitely use the comments, ask your questions while we're talking today, so that we can make sure that we're all kind of, we are the body of Christ is a community, right? So we act not in isolation, but in solidarity. So we want to make sure that we are able to connect with one another and share our thoughts and not hide behind the screen, y'all. Okay,
right? It's dialogue, right?
It's a dialogue. So join with us, so that we can see who's watching. Say something.
Yes.
And
always makes us feel good, right?
Yeah.
Makes for a good experience.
Yep, it does.
Yep.
And we love your questions.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Natasha. She says she's outside of Philly.
Okay, Natasha.
Natasha from outside of Philly.
Mylita's always on here.
Okay. Yeah. I'd stay way outside of Philly. Yep. All right.
You stay way outside of Philly?
I stay way outside of Philly. The young lady's name is Nyla from Buffalo. Yeah. How are they doing up there in that recovery?
The weather up there's been a mess.
All right. How about that? How about that?
That was a mess.
It was.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 feet of snow. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Can you imagine? Look, we go crazy over like 8 inches. Can you imagine 4 or 5 feet?
8 inches. We get 2 inches. When the temperature drop, right?
No eggs, no milk, no bread. It's like, what are we gonna do?
Mylita said the snow is melted, so that's good.
That's good.
Okay. Because Buffalo's that city. When it snows like 20 inches, they just plow and go to work. We shut everything down.
They're used to it.
Something serious is taking place.
Exactly. You know something's going on when they shut down.
All right, so welcome everyone. So today it's a new year. So this is our first SoundMind Panel.
Right.
But y'all know we have to kick this off with a conversation about goals and making sure that we're setting ourselves up. This is the new wave of glory, the year of the new glory. And so in order to experience that, it is our belief that we have to be prepared for that. And if God were to move incredibly in your life today, are you ready to receive what God So if he were to open up those doors that you've been asking for, are you ready?
Yep.
So,
opportunity. Don't know when it's going to knock, right?
Don't know when it's going to come. So what have we done to be intentional about creating a flow in our own lives to receive what God has in store for us? So Bishop always tells us God's not trying or getting ready to do anything, right? Like he's always moving. And so, are we in the flow of what God is doing by, having the right intentions, having the right heart, having the right mindset, practicing preparation, right? So like making sure that we have a daily devotional time of prayer, fasting, and using the wisdom and the skill set that God has anointed for each of us. Go ahead, Pastor
No,
P.
I was just going to say, I think that's very important because a lot of us, we say God, we want the opportunity, we want God to do a new thing, new year, new thing, new me, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes we're not. I think we start off good, and then we kind of dwindle down.
Yeah, the fire is hot in the beginning, right?
I got it. I'm gonna do this. I can conquer the world. January 1st, I'm going to do everything. And then by January 4th, you're like, oh, okay.
We give up.
What had happened was, but I think we have to be. I think we absolutely have to be. I think we have to be intentional. And like for me, if I'm trying to accomplish something or trying to prepare or make room for God to move or be ready for opportunity, I think we have to make big steps.
Absolutely. Oh, say it.
Sometimes it's the small steps that leads us to the bigger things. So I think sometimes we have the misconception that if I can't do it all, I ain't gonna do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Where the small steps is really what builds us up to the bigger things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So right.
So Reverend Prescott is giving us a wonderful introduction to this, right? So one of the things that we want to start off is like our SMART goals, right? So write this down, right? SMART goals is an acronym for specific, goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based, right? So they're specific, they're measurable, something you can measure, they're attainable, realistic, and time-based. So I think one of the worst things we can do is set ourselves up for failure by having goals that are extremely broad, right? So one of my clients said, I really want to leave a legacy to my family. And I was like, this year?
That's a lot in a year.
That's a lot to accomplish in a year.
Right.
And she was like, that's my ultimate goal. I was like, that's a huge goal, and
this year. Oh, that's funny.
We got to watch Reverend Tiff.
She be sneaking it in, right?
She's
like, I love you, but this year.
She's like, that's my big goal. And it sounds good, right? It sounds it sounds like so ambitious and a wonderful thing to desire. But where we fall short is not being specific enough. What do you mean? What does that look like today? How do we bite that down into something measurable and attainable for today?
Right.
And she said, I want to save more money. Okay, now that is much more specific.
Right.
What plans do we need to do in order to accomplish that?
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about being smart about goal setting and making plans to walk into this new phase of glory that the Lord is getting ready to do, and how we can help our viewers today figure out what next steps do I need to take? What should I be focusing in on? How do I know what's priority? How do we help them navigate that?
I think the first and most important step for me is write it down. I think once you write it down and see it on paper, and then I think sometimes we just have to write down everything that comes to your mind and then revisit it and then say, this is more realistic. This is attainable. I can do this by next week. I can do this by, next month. But again, I think we have to remember that, everything big starts small.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you have to chunk it. And if you say you want to write a book, okay, well, if I can't spend 2 hours a day writing my book, I'm not going to do it. Well, what about even if you only have 30 minutes a day?
Right.
15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
They're still doing something that's measurable towards your goal. So for me, I have to write it down.
For me, I think it starts with this. And I shared with you, I think just the other day in the email, you got to first make sure your goal. First of all, a dream is nothing more than a goal with a date on it. Okay. And you got to make sure that whatever you're pursuing in that new year, it's a rocket, not a flare. Difference is rockets project you to a great distance. So I always say, if your dream and goal is really good, then when I talk to you about it in August, you should be just as excited or more excited than you were in the beginning. If it's a flare,
Mhm.
Flares go up, make a big splash, look good, make a lot of noise, but then they come back to Earth somewhere around February. So I think that's the important, thing to do that. And Pastor Val was so right in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just think if it's not big, it's not good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the
That's
end
good.
game of where you want to go, but you got to
Yeah.
build the steps to it. That's the process with God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think what I like to acknowledge about this conversation about sometimes how difficult this can be.
Mhm.
And so I mean, I want to be real. Sometimes it's hard to do that. I
Mhm.
write
Mhm.
grants and I help people put grants together. And this is the hardest part of this process to, okay, tell me what you want to do and
Mhm.
how do you want to get there?
Mhm.
It's and once you put the, and Pastor Val echo what you say, you have to write it down. And I always tell people, don't make it any more complicated than it has to be.
Right.
Just
Right.
start with a list.
Mhm.
Anything, you just start with the list, and then we can start separating it into short-term goals,
Mm.
medium-term goals,
Mhm.
and long-term goals. And then you
Mhm.
start to organize things that way. But it all comes down to accountability.
Mhm.
And first of all, being accountable to ourselves
Mm.
and feeling
Mhm.
that we're worthy and capable of doing these type of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's your starting spot, but it can be difficult. But once you get it done, and I will echo Dr. Reggie said, you should be just as excited 6 months down the line as you are when you started,
Mhm.
because it's like a slow, it's like I call it, yes, the kids live in microwave communities in the world now.
Mhm.
But there's something about a slow cooker that just keeps it seasoned and keeps it going. And sometimes accomplish these things is not going to be a microwave meal. It's going to be
Yeah.
something you slow cook.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it'll be
Mhm.
valuable when you get there, because there's a learning
Mhm.
lesson all the way along. So I just want to acknowledge that it's difficult but doable, 100% doable.
And I
Right.
think what you're pointing to as well, Deacon LeBou, is like I think sometimes our struggles with identity, right? Like we
Yep.
have these big goals because we think that if I accomplish these big things, it's going to
Yeah.
fix something, right?
Yep.
It's going
That's
to
true.
Mm.
help
Very
me be
true.
better and help me show up in the
Very
world
true.
and have stuff to post on social media, and people are
Yeah.
going to see me as this great person that's so successful. But one of the things I remember reading, that's actually what I was looking for, something in a devotional that I read last year. A gentleman had made this comment that, help me, Lord, to see that I am, my value is not in things that I accomplish, but it's
Yeah.
in how much I glorify you every day.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And bringing
Yeah.
ourselves down to reality so that
Yeah.
we're not trying to look for things outside of ourselves to fix
Yeah.
things, right? So
Yeah.
we have huge goals
Yeah.
that don't make any sense for where we are contextually.
Right.
Like we're just not there yet. We have to
Mm-mm.
settle ourselves down and learn patience
Mhm.
and the little things that we need to do every day that's going to make our lives better in the long run, right? Like, when's the last time you had blood work done?
Yep.
You've been complaining about, I can't run, my joints are stiff.
Right.
I want to start exercising more and lose half my body weight. And they,
Yeah.
Clients say these crazy things to me they're good goals, but you haven't been to the doctor in 2 years.
Yep.
Is
Right.
there something underlying that's going on that you need to work on first? But
Mhm.
to take things down that are these
Mm.
big goals and bite size them, like you all are saying, right? Make it nuggets, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think something.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Pastor Val. No, go
I
ahead.
think something Bishop always says, that you have to fall in love with the process, because I think we get
Yeah.
bored when things don't happen for us quick enough. To your point, Reverend Tiffany, I want to lose 10 pounds, right? And I've been working out for 2 weeks. The scale didn't move yet. Well, you've been eating for 50 years, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you didn't have to go there, okay?
I'm just saying,
Nobody want to hear this.
I think we have to fall in love with the process. And sometimes the process, doing the same thing the same way every day, gets boring. But I think when you have your mindset on the end goal, I think that will motivate us to fall in love with the process.
Reverend T just brought up something I think makes a lot of sense. A simple goal could simply be, you know what, before I do anything in the new year, I'm going to make sure I have a checkup.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Like physical, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But that you know, I mean, I just kind of clicked when you said that,
Mhm.
because like, if you don't have the ability, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, what good is it?
Yep.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
And I
Yep.
think the other
And
thing
maybe
gets us in
help people
trouble.
get a checkup.
Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other thing that gets us in trouble is comparison. And
Mhm.
when we
Yes.
start
Yes.
comparing ourselves to other
Yes.
people, and we think, oh, they
Mhm.
doing this and they're doing it, and once I do this, I'll be like them. No, your purpose is your purpose. That means your
Right.
goal is your goal, and no one's going to accomplish it just like you. It's going to have your flavor, your stamp on it, because that's who God created us to be. There's only one of us.
Right. Right.
So our goals is unique to us, and how we accomplish it and how the other person accomplishes it is different. It's different. So we get caught up in comparisons and thinking that mine is not as good, or I'm not moving as fast, or I need to be equal
Mhm.
to this person. No, just be you.
Right.
And do what
Right.
God ordained you to do, even though you think it's not good enough. But
Mhm.
we are all uniquely and wonderfully and fearfully made, wonderfully and
Yeah.
fearfully made. So, yep.
Yeah. And
I
some
think
people
especially.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead,
I
Pastor
was
B.
going to. I was going to say, especially when we make comparisons based on what we see on social media.
Oh,
Mhm.
Mhm. Most definitely.
Anybody can be anything on social media.
Yeah.
yep,
So
No.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead,
yep. That's
Rev.
Mhm.
true.
All things is not everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Dana says
Mm-mm.
social media provides the influence of the microwave way of doing things. And I
Yep.
think
Yep.
it's so true. It
Mhm.
shows it shows a lot of times the aftermath of what,
Yeah.
you see the results, you don't see the process. And you
Right.
see
Yeah.
Right.
people sitting at the table signing that they just bought a new house, and you're just
Mhm.
like, and everybody
Right.
gets all bent out of shape, like, see how they winning and I'm not winning, how they did
Yep.
that
Right.
and I'm still struggling,
Right.
but we don't know
Yeah.
the behind
Mhm.
the scenes of this person's getting married now, and this person's pregnant, and this person's got a new job, and why am I, over here still
Mhm.
struggling, but we
Yep.
don't know. Social
The
media
process.
can be really deceiving, and we have to be really careful with comparing other people's process with ours, because we don't
Right.
know. We really don't
Right.
know.
That
Mm-mm.
is true.
Mm-mm.
That is
Mm-mm.
true.
Mm-mm.
What
And
about
that's what.
self-value?
Mm,
You know what I'm
that's a
saying?
good
I
one
mean,
too.
in this new year, and I'm saying that because you just talked about a minute ago about comparison, and then I thought about the comparison pressure, and that's a
Mhm.
different category where it can come from family.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? It can come from other areas, and sometimes we tend to celebrate the places. I'll just say like the white collar careers,
yeah.
Mhm.
and we don't think about the positive, strong blue collar. When I was in corporate, I was always nice to the custodial staff,
Oh, yeah.
those in the kitchen, those, because somebody might celebrate a CEO, which is okay,
Mhm.
mhm.
but you know who's more important than the CEO to me? Sanitation.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't pick it up, if they go on,
Especially now. Especially
then they
now.
can't do nothing. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So Christmas, every day. I mean, hey, how you doing? Get to know their name. Make sure you give them a little something at the right time, and
Mhm.
and because self-value, everybody's not going to be in a suit and tie or business suit. It, that's the important thing. And there was a time that was the case, as Deacon LeBou said. We came up in the slow cooker.
Yep.
Mhm.
We were
Yep.
under somebody's
Yep.
wing. We were under
Right.
somebody's wing.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
Hmm.
Now you got, like Dana said, Photoshop and filters, right? So everybody looks good no matter what they're doing,
Oh my
right?
God.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. It's
Yeah.
not
And,
realistic.
and it's not
Skin has no
realistic.
blemish.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
not
Mhm.
realistic.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And
And
I
I
think
think
Mm-mm.
we keep doing that. Go ahead, Rev. I'm gonna shut up.
no, I was just gonna say it creates this perfectionism. Like we feel like we have to have this perfectionism in everything that we do.
Yeah.
It's just not realistic.
It's not
No.
realistic.
Well, take it
And I
back
Go
to
ahead,
think
church.
Pastor.
I was going to say, and when we are trying to help people or, minister to people or share with people, I think they need to know our process.
Yeah.
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 I think it's okay to share the end result, but it's also okay to say, well, let me tell you, this right here has been 3 years in the making.
Yes.
This right
Sometimes
here,
longer.
I was on a struggle bus for 2.5 of those 3 years. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because I think at the end of the day, people want to know that we're the same. We
Yeah.
go through the same thing
Yeah.
as everybody else, regardless of how titled you are, how
Yeah.
That's right.
educated you are. We all go through the same thing.
Yeah. I took the garbage out today, and we'll take it out tomorrow. So I mean,
Yep.
doesn't matter what you got to do. You got to walk the dog, and you got to pick up behind the dog. You don't care what your title.
No
Yeah,
matter how
yeah.
wonderful you are.
They don't care. Don't give I just preach revival. 500 got saved. My
That's
dog
right.
will walk me and pick up behind me.
Take out the trash.
My view
Go buy
never
some
changes.
toilet paper.
But that's true though. But that's
Yeah.
true. And maybe this year, I don't know, maybe more can be said about that, especially from a church perspective and those who serve in ministry or offices, that we're real people too. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
We're real people too. And
Yeah.
because sometimes they'll say, well, you don't understand.
Oh, yes,
Really?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think no matter who you are, where is it? I think that we all have to go back and audit where we are currently, right? It doesn't matter what position you hold or where you are in life is. I think all of us have to do individual assessment about where we currently are and what we need to give over to God and what we need to work on in our personal lives, and how do those giftings and callings and what God is blessing us with help the community and help to build the kingdom, because we don't serve or work in isolation, like Bishop and Pastor Nick have been talking about. We are the body of Christ.
Right.
So we can't think so individualistic that we forget that God has called us to evangelize and that everything that we're doing is to uplift and build the kingdom.
Right.
And so I think all of us have a responsibility to make sure that we are working on our growth and then corporately coming together and supporting and uplifting one another in our different capacities.
I agree.
And I think also as far as the examples, I mean, the three of you, on this broadcast each month, you set the example because you're accomplished in your own areas. And as you said before, some look at you and they see the now, but they don't know the before. You know what I'm saying? And I look at the fact that, Reverend T, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a preacher, you have your own personal business, health practice business and everything. And you're gonna set the tone. I mean, and anybody viewing, if you're talking about was it mental health or just need to talk to somebody, she's the person to go to. Don't go run to somebody else.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
See her and pay her.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Oh no, that's important. No, that's important. That's important. Because we got to pour into each other, but you're in a unique field now where you're at the right age, at the right time, in the right situation to really just take it to a different component. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we can't be jealous of each other. We got to encourage each other. We got to be happy for each other. And we get past that. I always tell the people at the union, I said, listen, if you rejoice long enough with someone, then God gonna give you a turn.
Yep.
And I remember it took me about almost 6, 7, 8 years, and I did say, Lord, when is my turn? I'm not gonna lie.
I think we all have.
We all do that.
Yeah.
But when he gave that turn, it was worth the wait.
You're like, Lord, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah, because we get impatient.
Yep. And I think it's at times like that you I know I can speak for myself. I look back over my life. If God had given me the blessing that I asked for at that time in my life, there's no way I could not have handled it.
Come on.
That's so
I
true.
know you're right.
So it's like you just have to go, okay, can't handle it. God's like, I want to give it to you right now, but you're not quite ready yet. We're gonna let these things go through first, and then we'll bless you. So, sometimes we just have to be patient. I go back to that slow cooker. We just got to be patient and say, okay, God, I know that I am faithful, and you are faithful to me. So, and like Dr. Reggie said, when it comes around, it comes around. But sometimes we're just not ready to receive that blessing at that particular moment in our lives, if we're to be honest.
That's true. And I think most of us think we're ready well before we're actually ready.
Yeah.
And
what I
God
learned,
show us.
sometimes you can't bring it around in your environment.
Yeah.
You can't bring it around with the environment you're in at that time. And because I bought a car one time and said it was from the Lord, and I had to park it around the corner so they wouldn't come repossess it. So Back when I was young, our Lord gave me this car.
And you called it a blessing, right?
I called it a blessing and had to park it on a different street every night.
Lord, you're like, wait a minute, God, what's wrong with this equation?
And it's straight up from the cannon.
Something's wrong with this picture.
Right. What's going on? I got to go 5 blocks to home after I get out my car.
I love it. I do.
Oh, that's so true.
Got boots on your car and everything.
Right? It's so true.
It sounds like y'all are all saying that like we all have to reach a level of contentment, right? Just being content kind of with where you are in the process that you're in.
Yeah.
And not overthink the process either, right? Like learn to, what did Paul say? Learn how to one end suffer need and just learn to accept where God has you, right? Like learn therewith to be content. And sometimes that means just accepting where you are. So here's a few things too. I think when we're auditing our current year, and then we're working on a new year, there are different categories we can probably think about to really address, and that's your health and fitness, your emotional and mental well-being, your finances and your money, your relationships and family, career and learning, which are two totally different things, and your spirituality and community. So I think a lot of us need to actually sit and think about, in each of those areas of life, am I happy? Are there things that I need to work through in those areas, and what in particular? Like what in my marriage? What in my relationship with my children? What in my relationship with my siblings or my coworkers needs to really be worked on? And then think about from there specific things that you can realistically do that will help foster change in those areas. Because we're all 10 years from now, right? I want to own my own business. I want to write 3 books by this time next year. I want to do this and that. But our current circumstances, if we were to really sit down and think about those various areas, we're not happy. They're a mess. Our relationships are a mess. We have notes at work we need to finish, and things that are disorganized. Our home is cluttered and needs to be cleaned out, and we haven't washed our sheets in the last.
And these are all practical things, right? Practical things.
We're going all the way down the line, the timeline of things that need to happen, but our day-to-day stuff is falling apart. And I don't really believe God blesses that. Sometimes we have to think about just what can I do in the here and now? I want God to bless me greatly, but I'm disorganized. I'm full. Things are full of clutter, and sometimes we have to just practically get down to the basics and do the necessities and the priorities first, and then go from there. Watch how God opens up doors when you can sit down and structure and discipline your life a little bit better.
I think it's about stewardship, right? You can't steward, or stewardship is managing something that belongs to somebody else. Everything we have, God has given us. So if we can't steward our 1-bedroom apartment well, God, I want to give you a 3-bedroom house, but you haven't proven yet that you could steward the 1-bedroom apartment. So it's all about stewardship. All about stewardship.
I can say so much to that. Anybody?
I know you could. I see it on your face. You're like, well, our time has ended now.
I'm like, any last things? So we're gonna come back. Maybe we can do a part 2, or I think we're gonna try and do something on health and fitness. And one of the upcoming months, did anyone have anything that they want to, practically give our viewers today on things they can take away from today?
I would just simply say, sorry, Deacon LeBeau, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you go ahead. You go.
All right, it's a woman's world, so man, go first now.
Okay. That's right.
No, I would just say one of the key things is that I'm trying to be genuine, diligent to, is to choose to be happy. Because nobody can put you down unless you give them permission.
Yep. And that is sort of exactly what I was going to say. Something like that is that, we seek validation from other people and other things instead of
Mhm.
self-validating ourselves, and just realizing that, we're good enough just as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let that be the platform that once you feel that, then just do one thing at a time. I always come from the spot of, there's somebody beating themselves up right now, not
Yep.
feeling real
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
We've all been there. We've all been
Mhm.
there. Just take one step at a time, do one thing at a time, and yes, start valuing yourself for
Mhm.
who you are and right where you are.
Right.
Amen.
I think what resonated with me was contentment.
Mhm.
Wherever you find
Mhm.
yourself right now in this station of life,
Mhm.
learn to be
Mhm.
content.
Mhm.
Content, because I think that goes a long way. If
Mhm.
you're impatient like me, it's like you're going on a 4-hour trip and you're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? But the person that's content notices the flowers on the
Yep.
side of the road. They
Yes.
notice the horse and the blue sky. You know what I'm saying? So the
Mhm.
journey is a lot more pleasant when we intentionally practice contentment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Contentment leads to
Good girl,
gratitude.
baby.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Contentment leads to gratitude and appreciation.
Yep.
You stop focusing on what you don't have in these
Yep.
relationships and in these things, and God reminds you of how good He is. I
Yep.
think
Yep.
that
Yeah.
if we remember God's goodness in this season, He will open up our eyes to see what's right in front of us.
Yep. Say that again. What's right in
Right in
front of
front
us.
of you. Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back
Thank-
next month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking forward to meeting with you. Tell somebody that we're on for SoundMind Panel. Thank you again. If you are just coming in, please do share for someone that may have needed to hear this, especially as we're entering a new year. I think this was a very important conversation
I do
actually,
too.
Yeah.
as we are
Me too.
entering a new year. So please, please, please share for someone who may need to hear this. And we will see y'all in the next one.
See you next
Bye.
month. Bye.